So you want to drive fast, huh? Hello guys, this is Mick. I drive cars, and today I'm going to share 3 things that you don't understand about driving quickly on the public road. You should know the fundamentals of your car. You should understand if your car's front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Is it front-engined? Is it mid-engined? Is it rear-engined? How does that affect the dynamics? You should understand understeer, oversteer, grip. These should not be things that you have to think about. You should have a feel for how the car will respond based on its layout. Equally, I'm not going to go through any basics. So you should know what your tire pressure is. If your car doesn't tell you your tire pressure, you should check your tire pressure before a drive. You should be comfortable. If you're going out on the road to drive fast, you shouldn't be wearing a big coat or a really tight shirt that restricts your movement. You should have comfortable footwear. I actually really like these Piloti driving shoes. You don't have to have driving shoes, but some comfortable trainers. You can't be going for a fast drive in your Timberlands or your work boots because you don't have the feel in your toe. Your car should obviously be in a good condition. It shouldn't have mechanical faults. All the basics I'm not going to cover in this video. It should be a given that if you're going out on the road to drive quickly, everything is in working order and is in the way that it needs to be. None of this I'm going to go into in this video because I'm going to focus on these 3 specific points that a lot of people don't understand about driving fast. But all of the things I've just mentioned are fundamental and categorically important to you even being able to go for a fun drive. So if you don't know some of these things, if I've mentioned something you're like, I'm not quite sure about that, just do a little bit of research, gain a little bit of understanding. If you're still new to driving, just build up your confidence and then slowly start to implement these 3 things I'm about to talk about. All right, let's get into it. The first thing, and probably the most important thing that people don't understand about driving fast, is the corner entry. This is where people go way too hot into a corner and end up in a hedgerow or a bush because they misjudged the corner. Or they can't keep up with their friends because they don't understand how to read the corner entry. If we ignore this mocker, I'm coming into a corner here, but I'm looking over there as far ahead as I can at all times. Now I do this for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it lets me better judge the hazards that are coming up in the corner. Reason number 2, so you see this corner, I can see how tight the corner is based on how far I can see. So the further I can see, generally, the less the radius of the corner. If you, we'll come into a corner soon that's going to be really tight, and you'll see you can barely see the apex of the corner. What that tells you is that the radius of the corner is really tight, and you should lower your speed coming into that corner. For example, this corner, this is the one I was mentioning, is really tight, and you can barely see like the end of the corner. So it's a really tight corner. Learning to read the corner at corner entry is a really, really fundamental and important skill if you're going to drive fast on the road. Because if you're driving fast on the road, more than likely you haven't driven that road before, or you've driven it a few times. So you need to have an understanding of how to match your speed based on the corner. But you can't do that unless you understand your vision at corner entry. So this is a national speed limit. If you were here on a quiet day, you could be bombing down here at 60. Now you do see the sign telling you it's a left corner, but how do you know how tight it's going to be? Well, the end of your vision is right on the apex of the corner, so you know it's going to be super tight. So when you bomb into here at 60, you know how hard to brake. This is another one. The end of the vision's right there, so you know it's going to be really tight. These are 2 of my favorite corners. Super, super tight, But your visibility tells you that. You can see my vision ends right there. I know how tight this corner is going to be. But I'm looking through it. I'm looking over there. And now this one, same thing, super tight. But where am I looking? I'm looking as far as I can, always. For two reasons. I can see the hazards sooner, but also it helps me judge the corner better. People do not understand that you have to have the right mindset to go for a fun drive. Think to yourself, why am I going for a fun drive? The answer should be, I want to interact with the car. I want to have a really good experience, right? Or it could be you want to improve your driving skill. You want to get better as a driver. Or you just want to enjoy yourself, right? The correct answer is not, oh, I want to show everyone on the road how much faster I am than them, or any other egocentric things, because that's where things go wrong. So you have to have the right mindset to drive quickly. I'm just coming into a lovely bit of country lane. This is the public road. You're sharing it with other road users, with cyclists, horses, other road users that may not be experienced. Safety is paramount. So, again, this comes back to mindset, but you have to have a priority order, right? Where, in my order of priorities, what's more important? My fun or my and everyone else's safety, right? And there's a threshold that you need to have a feel for. You need to know if the corner's really tight and you can't see on the other side and the visibility is limited, as much as you may want to attack that corner at 50 miles an hour, it's probably not a good idea in terms of safety. And this, again, all comes back down to mindset. You have to be calm, you have to be composed, and you have to understand you might be in the fastest car on this road, but that doesn't mean you're going to overtake the smart car in front of you. Right, my next point, could you have guessed it, is corner exit. This is where the BMW drivers write off their cars. I've got a really good corner coming up here to demonstrate this. Hopefully we get a bit of clear air, which we do. So you're coming into the entry at the right speed. Mid-corner, you're using the throttle to stabilize yourself. What do you do at the exit? Well, a lot of people just flatten the throttle. And that's where, as you come out of the corner, you flatten the throttle and you lose the rear end. And that's where a significant number of crashes happen. So I'm in a front wheel drive car. So if I flatten the throttle coming out of a corner, all I really get is wheel spin and a bit of understeer, maybe a little bit of snaking. It's not the end of the world, right? So this car's quite forgiving on the exit. But a lot of you guys have got high power rear wheel drive cars that you love, and I can absolutely sympathize. But the reason the M140i is the most written off car in the UK is for two reasons. Number one, they get stolen a lot. But number two is because people don't understand the exit of a corner. Now, it's affected by a lot of factors. Do you have a limited slip diff? How much power do you have? What tires are you running? But fundamentally, there is a certain way to exit a corner, and it's not to just plant your foot. What you want to do is, on the entry to the corner, you want to introduce a little bit of throttle. That will stabilize the car. You don't want to coast around a corner and then apply a lot of throttle at the end. That's the worst thing you can do. You want a gentle amount of throttle to settle and stabilize the car all the way through the corner. That's the correct way to do it. Now, what do you do at the exit? Well, you should introduce more throttle as you're coming out of the corner, but it's all about your feeling, and this is where people struggle. If you're an owner of one of these rear-wheel drive cars and you found yourself struggling with this point in the past, the corner exit, the best thing you can do is get yourself to a track day. Because part of the reason these end up with write-offs is because if you've never experienced it before, it can be quite scary. You're not sure what you're supposed to do in that sense. I know some of my friends who are new to having like big, powerful rear-wheel drive cars. It surprises you. So if the first time the back steps out on you is when you're on a public road doing 60 and there's a car on the other side of the road, that's a bad situation to be in. What you want is you want it to have happened a few times. You want to be comfortable with it. Now, in my opinion, the best way to do that is a track day. But I could also understand if you went to an empty car park and just had a bit of fun, maybe in the wet so you don't ruin your tires. Slide the car around a little bit, see what it feels like, get familiar with it. That way, when it does happen on the road, you'll be prepared. You'll know what to do, you'll know how it feels, and it won't be quite as scary. But corner exit, like right here, if I flatten the throttle, it's not a good situation. What I should do is I'm reading the corner, I know it's quite a tight one, I've slowed in, now steady throttle, and once my steering wheel is straight, I can flatten it. But that's the correct way to do it. Once your steering is straight, or close to, you can go as hard as you want. It's not a problem. But you need to be able to read the car and understand how to work with it. One thing that people don't understand about driving quickly on the road are gears. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this point, but people just don't know how to use their gears. I've been on drives with a number of people, right? And it's always the auto drivers that are the worst offenders, but I've been out with some manual drivers that also cannot use the gearbox to save their life. And I'm not talking about cool tricks like heel and toe. I'm talking about just the basics of being in the right gear for the right situation. I've been out with manual drivers that have gone for an entire blast down the country lane like this, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. and they've done the whole thing in 5th and 6th gear. And although I'm in 5th gear right now because I'm following a Peugeot 206cc, that's not the right way to get the most out of your car. I've also been out with people in automatic cars that will just leave the gearbox in sport. And while I almost understand that, it's not the best way to get the most out of your car. Whether you have an auto car or a manual car, you should be thinking about and using your gearbox in the best way possible. So in this car, for example, the power band starts at about 2,500 RPM and goes right to red line. So if I was to hit this corner quite hard, what gear should I be in? I'm in 5th now, definitely not 5th, right? 4th? Almost. 3rd? 3,000 RPM. That's where I should be. That's at the beginnings of a power band. I can roll into the throttle and we've got a lot of power, right? That's what you should be looking at. Same story if you're in a manual car. You should be using the gearbox to make sure you're in the car's power band. And I was shocked by how many people just don't do this. Again, it's the lazy manual drivers, and it's the, oh, I trust the car to make the right decision. Well, no, if I put the car in sport now, it's almost definitely going to have me in the wrong gear.